Thanks for tuning back in to the back nine of the Tulfers Blue layout. If you haven't watched the front nine yet, make sure you go and check that out before you watch what shenanigans I get up to here. Now, without further ado, let's move on to hole 10. Hole 10 is a par 3, 255 feet, 78 meters long. This is a very tight woods gap that you have to hit, and then once you get out, the basket is again placed precariously on this side slope where you see a lot of rollaways happen. So you definitely want to get it as close to the basket as possible, whether that be for a birdie, par, or worse. So I grab a fortress knowing that it's relatively straight with a reliable fade towards the end. And I actually opt to re-tee after that. Terrible tee shot, hitting the meadow tree right off the get-go, and actually get a re-tee bogey here. Hole 11 is a par 3, 212 feet, 65 meters. Another touchy woods hole where you want to throw a soft hyzer and just have it fade towards the basket. Here I am throwing a VIP shield. I'm just trying to throw a soft little flex shot right down the main gap and have it fade back towards the basket in the barn, but end up early releasing that. And I actually put myself in a really weird, awkward position here, having to throw a touchy sidearm with a swan. It's a very understable disc for those who don't know, and just trying to let it turn around the tree by itself. Throw it relatively flat or a touch of anhyzer into the sky. And thankfully walk away with my par. Hole 12 is a par 3, 299 feet, 91 meters. We're throwing back towards the clubhouse that we see and the big trees where the tee pad of one is situated. Here the one thing you want to do is have the disc fade just before this big bushy tree that eats up all your discs when it just straightens out a little too much. Knowing that, I grab my Explorer off the tee, and my goal here is to just throw it on a touch of hyzer and just have it glide all the way to the basket and fade reliably before it could ever get into the tree. Now there wasn't a lot of power behind that throw, so it actually ends up hyzering out just early left, leaving myself with a really long putt. At this point, I just want to try to give it the best run that I possibly could, and maybe one day it will just fall in. It was a valiant effort, but didn't fall in this time, leaving myself with a par cleanup that unfortunately just chains out right. And that I was super disappointed in. Even watching back, it's not fun. Hole 13 is a par 5, 909 feet, 277 meters. And right about here we see our first landing zone. And we have our Mando left over here once we get into the opening. And the second shot, the goal is to get really as far out as possible, either throwing a massive anhyzer or a sidearm, depending on how aggressive you want to get. And with the basket even carving further to the right, placed on another hill. So here I am throwing my sorcerer off the tee, my furthest flying disc in the bag at this point, just trying to throw as far as I can. It really didn't drift off far enough to the right to get the max distance that I was hoping for, leaving myself well short of the Mando and having to opt for this sidearm, just a safe play to try get out into the opening and give myself a look at birdie. Here I am throwing my third shot now with about 330 feet or so to the basket, and throw a flex sidearm with a defender. And I put myself just outside of circle one here, probably about a 12 or 14 meter putt or so, slightly uphill, with some downhill right behind the basket. But you obviously got to run it. And my jump putt goes in off the band, actually. And that was a super satisfying birdie to walk away with. Hole 14 is a par 3, 268 feet, 82 meters, a Mando left. And in similar fashion, we again see the basket placed on a precarious sloping hill with actually water very far off to the left. And it's not entirely unheard of to see rollaways that would go all the way over there. So I throw my Ahti here, just a reliable overstable fairway. Just hoping to throw it out flat to get the distance and then have it fade right towards the basket. And that was pretty ideal and right about what I'm trying to do. Leave myself with a long putt here, trying to cash in. But just miss a little high. Even though I ran it, there's no harm or foul. Didn't see any rollaways today. Hole 15 is a par 3, 177 feet, 54 meters. Also the shortest hole on the course. Sloping downhill right off the tee pad with the basket placed on another slope that actually slopes away into this reservoir water area. And then here we see it super common to have just disc roll from right under the basket into the water. So knowing that, I'm just trying to throw my soft harp on a hyzer and have it land just short of the basket on the flat area. Just a touch too safe for my liking, but I gave myself a 6-7 meter putt here for a birdie, and unfazed, just put it in the basket. Hole 16 is a par 4, 555 feet, 169 meters, with a pond to cross right over the tee, and then a slight uphill slope as we approach the basket that's on another flat area. Here we have a couple of trees placed in the fairway that you may have to dodge one way or another. So with another par 4, I'm just reaching for my sorcerer again, trying to throw it as far as I possibly can. I get it to hyzer flip pretty nicely and actually reach the upslope, putting myself in a little weird area where I have to dodge some trees and uphill footing. Shouldn't be a problem, really, as I grab my Explorer, just trying to punch it flat and hopefully have it fade toward the basket. But like many other holes today, I've just been leaving them short with just beyond a 20 meter putt. Just throwing it up in the air, really, and hoping for it to fall down. And this time I make my comebacker for par. Hole 17 is a par 3, 264 foot hole, 80 meters. A slight hyzer that's just hidden away behind some guardian trees over here. Now this hole in particular can get fairly windy, and we actually have a slight downslope off to the right. So if you really flip a drive over, that could be costly and put you in a position where you can't even see the basket. Here I am throwing my Chameleon EMAC Truth. Just trying to throw it really flat and have it fade towards the basket. But I actually end up juicing that and just pulling it a little to the right, and the disc ends up fading out. Now here we actually had some technical difficulties and missed the approach and putt, but who wanted to see me miss another boring jump putt? So I took the par and we walk off onto hole 18. Hole 18 is a 540 foot par 4, 165 meters with a tight gap off the tee and some trees to dodge in the fairway, and then the basket is located just before a OB parking lot. Off the tee pad here, I'm throwing my G-Star Leopard 3, trying to hyzer flip it right up the middle. Just early release it and put myself in a terrible spot. As you can see from here, I don't have much other than trying to get through this gap and see how far up the fairway I could get. So here I am throwing my defender again with a finish flag on it, as many who have played with me would probably have seen multiple times around. I made it through the gap, but it didn't get much up the fairway. Probably about 100 feet of progress from my previous lie, putting myself in another really awkward stance, trying to throw a patent pending with an Explorer. Just trying to throw it between these two Christmas trees. And early release that into yet another Christmas tree, finding the third one of this hole. Luckily, I wasn't directly under it this time, and I just have a harp hyzer towards the basket. As I walk to my final putt here to tap in my bogey for hole 18, I'd like to thank everybody who stuck around this long to watch the entirety of the video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for joining me on this roller coaster of a round. I ended up finishing at +2. Don't forget to tune in for some more disc golf at a later date.